Let's get more now on that development in the DRC, and I'm joined in studio by Thierry Vircoulon, the project director at the Central Africa at the International Crisis Group. Mr. Vircoulon, thank you very much. Now, let's start off with the protest, though, now in the DRC regarding the presidential election there. How serious is that situation? Is it a threat to stability at all?
Well, it is a very serious situation because basically after Burkina Faso, the key issue of a president extending his term to office has now moved to Congo. And this idea is now challenged in the streets in Kinshasa, but also in Goma and Bukavu and other cities in the DRC.
We are seeing, though, the students coming out onto the streets and other protests. Is there likely, though, to be a Burkina Faso type situation in the DRC?
Well, it's a popular mobilization. Of course, the government has responded first with the police, but now with the army, and especially the Republican Guard, which is the elite force of the army. And I have the feeling that if some demonstrators are killed by the security forces, this movement is going to escalate very quickly. As I said, there are already several cities that are mobilized, and what is the key issue for the population is the extension of President Kabila's mandate. This is related to what happened last weekend in the National Assembly. A new electoral law was voted, and the problem is that this law is linking up the next election scheduled in 2016 to a national census.
All right. We are seeing, though, of course, Eastern DRC is still in turmoil. I mean, what needs to be done, though, to stop the process or to stop this situation escalating in Kinshasa and in the surrounding areas?
Well, I think right now what is necessary to avoid this escalation is to reconsider the idea of the national census. The problem is that if you decide to do a national census before the election, it means you basically need a year of work. Congo is a 2.3 million square kilometers country. It's a huge place, and the last census was done in 1984. So basically, if this law is adopted by the Senate, it is an automatic extension of President Kabila's mandates, and that's why the people are opposing right now. That's why the idea of the census, of the national census, has to be reconsidered.
All right. Just away, though, from the situation in Kinshasa itself and to the Eastern DRC, you know, there was supposed to be a strike by MONUSCO and the Congolese army, of course, routing out the FDLR rebels and other militias operating in the Eastern DRC. What's happening with that? We haven't heard much about it.
Well, you haven't heard much about it, and you're not going to hear about it at all, I'm afraid, given the security situation now in the DRC. The Congolese army was also supposed to be part of this operation against the FDLR, but now the Congolese army may be too busy, and especially if the demonstrations are escalating. As I said, even in the eastern Congo cities like Goma and Bukavu, there is a popular mobilization at the moment.
What is the interest, though, or what is the region itself, though, doing about all this? Because the Great Lakes region had been quite involved in trying to stabilize the DRC, but so far that situation hasn't quite stabilized yet. What is the region doing about it now?
Well, I mean, the region has proved to be unable to deal with the simple FDLR issue, given now the much bigger issue of the extension of President Kabila's mandate. It's not the region who's going to provide any solution for this. It's pretty clear that the African president around don't want to talk about this issue, which is a very sensitive one, especially after Burkina Faso. Therefore, there is now a much bigger problem in the landscape than the FDLR.
All right, a very brief answer here from you, though, in the short term, because you're watching the DRC very closely in the short term with the instability going on in Eastern DRC and Kinshasa itself. What are we likely to see, though, in the short term?
Well, it all depends how the demonstrations are going to be handled by the security forces at this stage. Of course, I don't want to speculate, but this popular mobilization does not come out of the blue. since last year, basically, there's been a growing mobilization by the opposition. There was an opposition group called Don't Touch My Constitution that was created last year when the idea of constitutional review was floating around, and the opposition parties have been mobilizing their people more and more. So this is definitely a burning issue right now. Violence can escalate if the security forces kill some demonstrators, and I think the opposition now talks about 28 people who have been killed since Monday. So let's see what's happening on the street, but it's clear that there is a very strong opposition to the extension of President Kabila's mandate. All
right, Thierry Vircoulon, we leave it there for the moment from the International Crisis Group. Thank you.